Hey, it's Mr. Johns. Welcome to episode 6 in our Minecraft side scroller in Scratch series. This is the episode I was so excited about in last episode because we have solved the problem of collecting gems. As you can see on my screen here, we've got blue gems that we can collect as we play the game. And not all of them, can't reach that one yet, or that one. So, but it was a huge accomplishment just getting the scrolling to work. And it's hard to explain how it feels to finally get it to work because I watched dozens of tutorials as well as used other people's code to try to get this to work, and it never quite fit. I could never get it the way I wanted it, and just wasn't happy with it. Very frustrating, and should be a pretty simple concept. So either the gems would scroll with the player, or they wouldn't scroll at all, and then they wouldn't disappear once I touched them. Then they would disappear, but they wouldn't make a sound or give me any points. So to get all that to happen, that one's in a bad spot. To get all that to happen at once, oh, you can't jump that high, is awesome. So I wanted to share with you how that was done, and I'll have to admit, as I have been completely honest in the past about me being about a level 2 coder, maybe a 1.75 on a scale of 1 to 3. 1 being completely don't understand any of it, have to copy everything, and don't understand why it works, but I can copy stuff. To 2, I copy a lot of code, but I understand a lot of code and can start to understand the logic and make some of the changes that I want to make, but still can't do it from complete scratch. And level 3 would be you could just start from scratch and make a game how you want it, and you understand all the logic, or most of the logic of the coding. So I am hopefully level 2, but sometimes the logic just doesn't make any sense to me, and that's what I was having a problem with the collectibles. So, and the thing I wanted to admit was I got a little bit lucky. I was dragging and dropping some of the code until it worked. Just trying different combinations of things until it worked. And so one thing that I recommend is that you take your level that you're working on or your game, and you can go file, save as a copy. And so then you have 2 copies, and you have one to kind of mess with. So if you do screw up, you can always go back to the original. So that's a strong recommendation. It's important to have something that you can just mess with and don't worry about it if you screw it up, because chances are you'll need to start over at some point. So, all right, so let's take a look at this. First of all, I did create a new category of sprites called collectibles, and so just go to choose a sprite and upload. And if you haven't already uploaded these 3, do so. Gem green, gem red, and gem, should be called blue. I'm going to rename that right now. Actually, I really should call it blue gem. Well, the other ones were called gem red, gem green, so we'll stick with that. Gem blue. So if you had uploaded previously, you may have seen I had a whole bunch of animations for those, a bunch of costumes for those 3 gems, and my goal was to have those gems animating, so they kind of look like they flash, like there's some light flashing, and it's a cool effect, but I got everything to work except for the animation, and I just could not figure out how to clone an animation. So I'm sure it can be done. I just don't know how to do it, so I gave up on the animation. It didn't matter that much anyway. I looked at the animation and decided that it's not a make or break kind of deal. In fact, kind of took away from the game a little bit this kind of simple side scroller isn't meant to have a bunch of, fancy flashing things, I don't think, anyway. So anyway, it worked out okay. So I uploaded those three, and under costumes you'll see I've got the blue, green, and red. So it doesn't really matter which one is selected to show up down here, just as long as the category is called collectibles. And so you could really upload anything to take the place of these gems, any kind of Minecraft thing or coins or whatever. The code is exactly the same. The costume is all that's different here. So let's take a look at the code for our collectibles. Now here's where I found success. The logic that was making sense to me was when I play the game, the ground scrolls, I don't, right? The player doesn't. The ground is what's moving, and I needed the collectibles to scroll with the ground. So I realized, why couldn't I just use the same code? So that's exactly what I ended up doing after, I bet, weeks of struggling with coding from scratch, in Scratch. It just never quite worked. So what I did is I went to the blocks and I just drug each code block, and the secret here is to match up the upper left corner to the upper left corner of the category here that you want to drop it into, and then it'll end up, the same code block will end up here. So I did that for, how many do I have? 2, 3, 4, 4. Just these 4 code blocks, which make the ground scroll correctly. So I figured it should work with the collectibles. And with a few changes, it did. Okay, so let's take a look at them. So first of all, you want to get that done. You want to copy all the code over from the blocks. But one thing that isn't important, let me clean these blocks up. Here we've got the, these are the clones of the ground, sorry. And each time it clones it, so it's basically saying, hey, switch to costume level 1-1, and then go to 1-2, and then go to 1-3. And always put them 480 pixels to the right. And so that when I play the game, it scrolls. Okay. The Y is 0, and the X is 480 pixels away. So that works great, but I don't need to switch the costumes for the gems because the gems are all the same, especially since I'm not animating it. Okay, so I took that out. So notice all this code was exactly the same. I've only started playing around with these numbers right here. Okay, so you will not have to change anything except for you can delete. I pulled and drug away each of the costumes for the ground. Obviously didn't apply. So what we're doing here is when you start the game, hide all the gems until the game starts, which is like instantaneous. As a matter of fact, probably don't even need this. Let's see what happens when I hit play on that. Nothing. I mean, it might be just a split second faster, but I don't think it really makes any difference. So maybe I don't need that hide at all. If you have code that doesn't affect it, it's probably okay to dump it. In that case, it doesn't really matter if it's hiding when the game starts anyway. So here's where I set the I wonder if that needs to be X gem X. Let's try that. Let's try changing. Didn't realize that I just had, let's see if it matters. I don't think it matters, but to be consistent, we're really setting the X location of that gem to 150. Okay, so 150 over pixels over, and what you have to play around with here is the location of each gem. Now I haven't done that yet. I mean a little bit, but you can see how these gems are fine, but there's some gems later on, like that one, I can't reach. So I just haven't played with these. And the whole point, I should have a gem directly over the lava. That's just barely out of reach, just to make it seem, you know, difficult to reach. So, you know, I made myself a list of things that your collectibles need to have. First of all, they need to scroll with the ground, and that's what we're talking about now. They need to make a sound when you reach it, when you grab it. It should give you a score or points. It should disappear after you get it, right? Because technically you're supposed to be like getting it and putting it in your pocket kind of thing. And then the other thing, so I have all those accomplished, but the other two things I haven't yet. It should provide a challenge to reach all of them. So I still need to, you know, change the location of some of them. I mean, in some cases, you might have to think about how to get to it. Like I like that blue one that's right there because that looks hard to get to. Now, can I get to it? Maybe. So it can't be impossible. Yeah, that one might be a little bit too tough, but it should be a challenge. Okay, so you're not just going along picking up gems. And then the last thing is that I don't have an answer for yet, but they should have a purpose. Like, what's the point, right? So I know every time I grab a gem, I get a point, and so this score goes up by 1. As a matter of fact, notice here, when I start, it resets to 0. When I grab one, it goes up by 1, which is exactly what it should do. So, but what's the point of that, right? So maybe that's enough for some people, but probably not for you if you're watching this and following along. Maybe your little brother or sister, it's fine. It's like Happy Birds. Just dun, 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 you know, just go along and do your thing. Although this is easier. There's really no obstacles yet. So, but what's the point? So we need to eventually think about what's the purpose. If, you know, for every 10 gems, you earn something. You can trade them in. You can craft. This is Minecraft, so maybe you can use those gems to craft something. Upgrade armor or a weapon or something. I don't know if I'll get to that level with it, but that's something to consider. At this point, though, the basic stuff here, to scroll with the ground, we've accomplished with this code. To make a sound, let's look down here. Here's the code that is probably a little bit different than the ground. So make sure let me zoom in, make sure that you have this for collectibles. When I start as a clone, switch costume to the blue gem. I just chose blue. I don't know if it matters. My thought is all blue gems in level 1. All green gems in level 2, and all red gems in level 3. And then maybe I'll even have like a theme. I'll have things that show up that are blue and red and green. I don't know, but that's what I'm thinking. I could even make them bigger. I could make them get bigger. So blue is small, green is medium, and red is a large one. So it seems like it's worth more, or maybe it's the opposite way. Maybe it's harder to get because they're smaller. Maybe that doesn't matter. Anyway, those are thoughts to think about. So when I start as a clone, switch to the blue gem, and then show, just in case at the end of the game it was hiding them. Make sure that it shows, and then forever. Here's the part that I got lucky. I was dragging and dropping and changing, and this worked. That I put this loop in this code block in this forever loop. It's basically saying, hey, the position which we have defined up here of X and Y, okay, it's going to scroll. Okay, and this is the same code as the ground, right? So that's why it's scrolling the same as the ground. So that when I hit play, that blue gem scrolls exactly the same speed. Now, I may play with that later. I like the effect, and I've done this in a previous game. I like the effect of the gem moving slightly slower or faster. Probably faster. Well, I don't know. You can make things look like they're further away by scrolling at a slightly different speed than other objects. That's a really cool effect and may or may not do that. If I had a tree in the background or mountains, that's what I like to do. So it really gives the effect of distance. So we'll get there, I think. So in this case, scrolling, and then here's the loop. This is the basic code block right here that makes it all happen. So if we're talking about the collectible, the gem. If the gem is touching, and we choose what? The player, then what happens? Well, it should make this sound, and I just found one in Scratch that was fine. It's not a penny or coin, so it shouldn't really sound like a cha-ching, but, you know, I mean, it's similar. It sounds like you're collecting something. Okay, but not necessarily a coin. Okay. And then it should change the score, change the gems, which is a variable, by 1, and it adds to your score. So here's where I was at. Oh, and then delete the clone. So that's important. That's what makes it look like you got the gem, and then the gem goes away. I was having a lot of problems with this code block, believe it or not. The fact that I think I had this in a different location, or the forever block was different. I don't remember, but it was doing everything I wanted it to do, but it was waiting 1 second before the gem would disappear. So you'd get it, and it would go cha-ching and give you a point, and then 1/1000, and then it would disappear. Well, that didn't look right, and I just could not figure that out. So there was no logic. There was no logical reason that it was doing that I knew of. And so I just played around with some things, got rid of the animation. That was maybe one of it. But remember, in Scratch, it does everything in order in a code block. So I was considering this, you know, as soon as you touch the player, make the sound first, give me a score next, and then delete. I mean, it happens so fast you don't even notice. But sometimes the order is important. All right, so that's pretty much it. As long as you have those code blocks, let me zoom out, make sure we have all of them. We have 3 code blocks. Okay, so we've made a custom block called position for our collectible. And don't forget that when you make that custom block, add 2 inputs, one called X and one called Y. So type those in. So when you go custom block, make a block, make sure you add 2 of those and click run without screen refresh. But actually physically type in X and Y. So those are a permanent thing. I'm going to cancel there. So, and then you end up with this position block, but also you end up with these little things that you can drag and drop and put in the code. So create this code block. Create this code block so you can, and just to show you how this works, I can switch to the green gem. And as I was saying, it should show up. That is weird, right? So let me go back to blue and see what happens. Oh, okay, so I disconnected something, right? Yes, I took this out. Why is that? That's just hanging, but that shouldn't matter. So what did I do to screw that up? So let's try it again. Where'd my collectibles go? So what did I do? So you have to be really careful with coding. I mean, just by dragging and dropping, and I may have just moved one thing. So it's really important to pay attention. Let me just go back through and see what I did here, because this is where it wasn't working earlier. But I think when I started as a clone, switch to blue, show, and then forever do this. Should be fine. That should all be fine. Okay, what did I do? Set gem X. One thing I did is I switched that, but it was working after I switched that. Oh, there's one thing I can think of is maybe tell it to show again. No. No. No, no, no. Okay, isn't that interesting? I didn't look like I changed anything. So these, let's just double check. Define position XY. Oh, maybe. Yep, that's what it was. See, when I was just kind of showing you this position thing here, I drug another X and just dropped it. So there was 2 X's and no Y. And so that made my gems disappear. That gave me a heart attack there for a minute. So I just want to show you, now that it's working, that I can choose green, or I can choose red. And anything else you have, you could have it show up. So nice. Okay, so code blocks, that'll make it work. You can choose any sound you want, of course. And then here's where we're going to spend some time. I'm not now, but you should spend some time matching your terrain, matching your gems to the terrain. So this is the first gem, and it really doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to move. Oh, I also played around. Finish that sentence. I'm going to move that like 220. Play with the numbers and see what happens. You know, it sends it. That's not far enough, right? So let's send it to 320. That should send it away. No, why is that one? Oh, maybe that's the second one. Let's send it to 520. Okay, so that was the. You know what? Maybe. The only thing I see different here is that I did change this. I'm going to change that back to X ground and Y ground. Again, it's one of those examples of how what I think makes sense. Y ground doesn't make sense. Doesn't work. But nah, see, I didn't change anything anyway. So as long as it works, doesn't really matter. However, I think these are the ones. Okay. So I did send one 520. I sent that one down the road a ways. But these ones, I think, are the ones that are too close. So let's go 400 and let's go 610. Let's just boot these down the road. You should see these gems. Yep, exactly. Go further. Okay, so here we go. So what you need to do is play with those numbers. And just so you know, one thing that I did, which I find was really valuable, was let's do something different. I'll show you what I mean here. Let's go 210 and 50, 220 and 40, negative 40. Sorry, 230 and negative 35, 240. So what I'm doing here is experimenting with distances and mostly heights. So, okay, let's see how close they are together, especially those first ones. Those ones are really close together. And I'm seeing if I can reach just by jumping. Okay, I can reach all of these so far. That one I cannot. So we're going to start over. I can reach all of those. So distances, which is the X, I can figure out later, and it should match my terrain. And I need to make the terrain harder, right? So far this has just been basic terrain, but I really should make it more complicated, more difficult, and then put the gems in difficult places to get to. But what we want to do here is really really explore different heights to see. Let's make that 200. To see what's the best. No, those are too low, right? I can easily get those, and that's even lower. So this one, I can get all those. So I need to go the opposite direction. So perhaps this one should be minus 40. The numbers should be getting smaller. This one should be minus 35, minus 30, minus 25. You can see what I'm trying to do here is figure out the height for jumping. And I can get those easy. I can't really, yeah, I can get that one fairly easy, but this one I may not be able to reach. Yeah, okay. So that one is the fourth one, which is minus 25. So it looks like minus 30 is the height. That is just low enough. Let's find out if I did that right. So you can see barely, I can just barely get those. And that one is the 25. Okay, good. So I was experimenting with height, and so negative 25 is too high. So it goes, the smaller number negative, the smaller you go negative, it goes further up. Okay, so because 0, remember, is up in the middle somewhere. So what is important there is that, although, I mean, you can see that there also should be the challenge that I can't get it from the ground, but I can certainly jump off the block. So in that instance, I might want to leave that one at 25. So once you kind of know your numbers, where they should be, and you could, you know, figure out like where the lava is on your screen, once you kind of know where that location is, then you could say, okay, let's put a gem above the lava at negative 30. So you know that, so you can see what I'm getting at. You want level 1 to be challenging, and the goal should be to get all the gems, and they're going to be in locations that you have to work for, and they should get harder technically, right? I mean, that's what should happen. I mean, I don't mind if the first gems are just sitting there and you just jump and get it, and then the next one gets harder, and the next one gets harder, and by the time you're done, you're trying to figure out, how do I get to that guy? Like, I can't get here from here. I'm gonna, oh, see, I figured I can jump from there to there, and then got it. So you just, not that that was incredibly hard, but that it was harder than the first one, and that's kind of what I mean. And then they should just get continually harder. And I have coded this so it allows you to go left, so you can go backwards to say to retry a section that maybe you couldn't figure out, like to get that gem there. So all right, anyway, that's what I wanted to cover in this episode. It was a huge accomplishment. You probably can't appreciate it until you struggle to code it yourself and struggle to find something that works, and then when it finally works, it is awesome. So these are the code blocks. Pretty much you can see all of that you need here at one shot, and make sure you have coded your collectibles with these code blocks and make sure everything works. If not, shoot me an email or send me a message, and I'd be happy to try to help you out. Our next episode should be super exciting, so make sure you check in with me then, and we'll see you next time around. Mr. Johns out.